Welcome to Get the Facts, the show that gives you information on the latest topics. I'm Theodore Henry. Whether it's fish, shrimp, or lobster, seafood is a staple in many Jamaican homes. But how do you know what's safe to eat, how to store it, or even how to prepare it properly? Acting manager of the Bureau of Standards Quality Institute, Deidre Taylor, is here to help us get the facts and understand what the BSJ is doing to ensure the seafood reaching your mouth is safe and up to standard. Welcome to Get the Facts, Lady Taylor.
Thank you for having me. Good day.
All right, let's jump right into getting the facts. What's the big deal with seafood safety?
I think seafood is often overlooked when we're talking about food safety. We talk about chicken, we talk about, well, let me not say it's overlooked because we know what happened recently with crabs. So yes, seafood is getting some amount of attention now, but we want to heighten the awareness.
Yeah. And you mentioned crabs, but I remembered quite distinctly when lionfish became a thing. What was the conversation about? It's toxic, and so there are some concerns about what we pull out of the ocean and eat.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons why we want to bring some awareness to seafood. Lionfish, for example, is something that you consider exotic, and we find that Jamaicans have increased in terms of their appetite for exotic foods.
Okay.
And lionfish does, in fact, contain toxins that will be hazardous for your health.
So the BSJ has what sort of role there in seafood safety?
All right, the BSJ is considered the knowledge center of the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. We are actually required by the Standards Act to promulgate standards, right? So we do testing and we do training. So in essence, we inform you so that you can conform to the requirements of the standards.
Got it. I like how you put it. The BSJ is the standards arm of the... Okay.
Yes, and we inform so that you can conform.
Inform so you can conform. All right, so tell me some of those specific guidelines when it comes to handling, packaging, selling seafood.
All right, I'm glad you mentioned those two because two of the main standards that we use, the JS36, it looks on the standard that applies to how you handle processed foods, right? So it's the standards for processed foods, the standards for labeling, right? Because packaging in itself contains the product, but what is on the packaging informs what you do as a consumer. Right. So if you're like me, you go into the supermarket, you look for your batch code, you look for your best before date, all of those things inform what you do as a consumer.
Okay, so the BSJ informs the providers, the packagers, the handlers about these standards. You have to have this.
They are mandatory, yes. So because the consumers need to know what to look for, it's a requirement for you as a manufacturer to put these appropriate things on your labels.
Got it. We're going to come back to that, what to look for. But just before we get there, is there any difference in the standards or the guidelines when it comes to imported seafood as opposed to local?
Not really, because we are concerned about the consuming public in Jamaica. So what obtains in terms of what is processed locally also obtains in terms of what is imported. So the onus is on us to ensure that what comes into the country is safe for our consuming public.
Got it. So it's not standards for standards' sake or any of that stuff. It is for the safety of the public.
Yes, always for the public. That's our role, to ensure safety of the public.
All right. So you told me that when you go to the supermarket, you do the whole 9 yards.
Definitely.
Batch code, everything.
Definitely.
Help me.
All
what should I look for? What should customers look for when buying seafood?
All right, so if you're going to the market, right, which is separate from the supermarket, there are certain signs of seafood quality. Obviously, the smell, right? Yes, if it has a high odor, you don't necessarily want to buy that product because seafood contains a lot of protein. And one of the ways that you know that spoilage is occurring is because of the high odor that will emanate from the product. I tend to look for the eyes. That is something that is recommended by the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations. If the eye is clear, you know the product is fresh. If it looks a bit opaque, as though it's getting cloudy, then that is a sign that it's aging.
That's interesting.
Yes, and deteriorating in quality. If you're allowed to touch the eye, then if there's a spring, you know that the product is relatively fresh.
Yes, if it's a spring meaning it...
Yes, it bounces back when you remove your finger. But if when you press it, it remains depressed, then you know there's a concern there in terms of aging.
Interesting.
And I think most persons want fresh fish.
Right.
So If it is that it is frozen, however, you may not be able to do all of that testing in terms of the spring, but you'll definitely be able to see the opacity of the eyes. So if it's clear, then you know it's relatively fresh.
Right. You mentioned that in the context of like a market. What about a supermarket?
So in the supermarket, that's mainly where you will find frozen seafood. In terms of your packaged products, now you look for your best before date. That should be on the product itself or on, usually there's a label with the batch code, right? That indicates to you what batch was associated with that product in the event there's a recall.
Right, right.
And recall usually is something that obtains when the product after the fact is considered not safe for the consuming public, right? You also want to ensure that all of the appropriate details are there. So in terms of labeling, it should bear instructions in English, right? Because we are in Jamaica and English is the language that we use. You want to ensure that the net weight is there. So in terms of value for your money, all of those things are spelled out in our labeling standard at the Bureau of Standards.
Got it, got it. I have to ask, is there any particularly kind of seafood that Jamaicans should have a little bit more caution?
Oh, yes. All right, so the larger seafoods, right? So like barracuda, for example, and I know persons from my community in Clarendon, they tend to love these foods that are considered a bit more dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, Jamaicans tend to be attracted to risky things. They tend to bioaccumulate toxins as well as bioaccumulate environmental pollutants, right? So you have to look out for the larger fish such as barracuda. We would have mentioned lionfish before. Some of our shellfish, they also have a cause for concern because they too, by virtue of how they exist in the ocean, they also attract some of these pollutants that are in our waters. So we have to be very careful in terms of the consumption of those edibles.
We like danger. We like danger.
Unfortunately.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. We're going to take a break. The discussion will continue with Deidre Taylor, Acting Manager of the BSJ's Quality Institute. Welcome back. I'm still talking with Deidre Taylor, Acting Manager of the Bureau of Standards Quality Institute, and we're discussing safe consumption of seafood. Lady Taylor, you mentioned that the BSJ acts as the knowledge center.
Yes.
So help us understand, how does the BSJ work with the local seafood vendors, manufacturers, the importers? What do you do for them, and what form does it take?
All right, so a very big part of our operations is called client services, right? Where this is a free service offered to the public. We look at micro, small, and medium enterprises. So if you're a sole trader, you can come into us. If you have a business idea, you want to make some lemonade, for example, we can assist you. In terms of seafood, if you're a local seafood vendor, we can assist you. We can give you the requisite training so that you can be compliant with the requirements of the country.
Right, and you mentioned micro, small, so literally anybody can benefit.
Anybody. Yes. We actually have a wide range of clients, not that we are not open to more. Right? We have the Quality Institute, which is where I work, and that is actually where the industrial training unit is housed. We have a wide range of trainings. We are big on food safety to the point where we are the only licensed safe quality food institute in the nation. Right, and we offer trainings in seafood in keeping with that.
No, I'm getting the facts. I want to go a little deeper.
Sure.
What format does training take?
All right.
Online, in person? What sort of stuff we're talking here?
We are multimodal, right? So we have some trainings which are face-to-face. When COVID came about, we moved to online, and we found that worked for many persons who wanted to join in different parts of the world. And so sometimes our trainings are hybrid. Right, where we have face-to-face occurring simultaneously with persons online.
Got it. What about the date, the where, the when, the time?
Yeah. All right, so our webinar will be on the 4th of June, 3 days before World Food Safety Day, which is a really big deal, right? So we want to bring some awareness to seafood consumption and in general food safety.
Yeah, okay, all right. So, and is this multimodal or it's entire webinar?
Yes, it's a webinar, so it will be online, right? You can reach out to us at the Bureau of Standards Jamaica, 618-1534. You can contact us at the extension 3455 for more details, but we will be sharing it on our social media pages. But if you need more information, feel free to call us.
All right, so we're in the tail end of the interview, and I don't know, is there anything you'd like to say directly to those who are watching, both the consumer and the producers?
Definitely. Okay, so whether you are a single entity or you have many workers at your organization, we have trainings guaranteed to give you success in your operations at the Quality Institute. As I mentioned earlier, we are the only Safe Quality Food Institute licensee in the nation, and so we welcome you to come and do trainings with us so you can be more informed and more in conformance with the requirements of the standards.
That's it. And that's all the time we have for today. We've been having a discussion about seafood safety with Deidre Taylor, acting manager of the BSJ's Quality Institute. This has been Get the Facts, and I'm your host, Theodore Henry. Until next time, stay safe.